futuristic architecture that overtook the Canary Islands, because I want to explore this concept of islands, pushing this idea of futurism. Across the 20th century, islands have become test sites for modernity. They're miniature worlds where governments, corporations, and architects can experiment with the future. In the last episode, we explored how, on the edge of Europe, the Canary Islands, you can still find traces of the 1960s dream of the future. Hotels that look like UFOs, flying saucer lookout points, and curves against the lava. They were built to make Spain look modern, European, and futuristic. A facade for a dictatorship to sell holidays to Northern Europeans. But this isn't just a story about Spain. Across the world, futurism has found its home not just in big cities, but in small, isolated worlds. So let's explore two case studies where islands have been used as an experiment of modernity. And these two islands could not be more different: Singapore and Iceland. When Singapore became independent in 1965, it was tiny, swampy, and geopolitically vulnerable. It was surrounded by larger and politically unstable neighbours. But its smallness became its superpower. Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew and a Dutch planner, Dr. Albert Wijnsemius, turned the island into a state-scaled experiment, a controlled and super-efficient machine. Singapore built public housing for 80% of its residents and engineered one of the world's busiest ports. It also created an economic development board, which brought in global corporations. Later, with Japanese and American backing, it became a manufacturing hub, and today it is a financial and tech capital. Its urban planning and surveillance systems, from traffic monitoring to its Smart Nation initiative, make it one of the most data-governed societies in the world. For Singapore, the futurism is in its functionality. And it's not just about aesthetics or idealism, it's a response to vulnerability. And then there's Iceland, which is another nation which is defined by isolation. But it is one that has built its future through geology rather than policy. Perched in the mid-Atlantic ridge, it has turned its volcanic heat into power. Today, 99% of Iceland's electricity is renewable, mostly through geothermal and hydroelectric means. The island hosts data centres for global tech firms, attracted by its cheap energy and cool air. In 2013, a former NATO base, near Keflavik, turned into the Verne Global Data Centre, housing servers for BMW, the London Internet Exchange, and the European Space Agency. If Singapore's modernisation is about efficiency, Iceland's is about adaptation. This is an ecofuturism which is born from the planet's raw forces. These are two islands taking two different paths to rewrite what development can look like. Islands as outposts of power. Not all island futurism is peaceful. For empires, islands have always been the perfect edges for control. Outposts for projecting power and testing technology. In the middle of the Pacific, the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands is one of the key places for American militarism. After the Second World War, the US displaced entire communities from the atoll to make way for the Ronald Reagan ballistic missile test site. It's still in service today, a space surveillance and missile defense base, tracking satellites, intercontinental missiles, and debris across orbit. It is a geopolitical hinge between the Cold War and the space age. Nearby, on the Bikini Atoll, the US tested 23 nuclear bombs between 1946 and 1958. Displacing more than 160 residents, many of which never returned. This island was presented as the world's vision of progress: nuclear energy, national security, and scientific modernity. But in reality, it was colonial, a tropical island turned into a sacrificial lab for superpower politics. And this dynamic repeats across the world. Ascension Island, a speck on the South Atlantic, is covered in radar domes and satellite dishes. It hosts British and American military installations, including the Wide Awake Airfield, a Cold War-era runway used to support space launches and reconnaissance. It is also a communications hub, a critical network of undersea cables that carry much of the world's internet traffic between continents. And in the Indian Ocean, the Digheo Garcia, once home to the Chagossian people, was transformed into a joint US-UK military base after mass deportations in the 1970s. From there, America launched operations both in the Gulf Wars and in the war in Afghanistan. For these powers, the islands aren't just territory, they're infrastructure. They are invisible anchors in a global system of surveillance, communication, and control. Islands make geopolitics tangible. You can draw borders, build radars, or launch missiles from them. Economic futurism, islands as branding. Instead of fighting for the future, some islands sell for the future. They market modernity as a lifestyle and architecture as inspiration. Take Dubai, for example, a technically desert city now surrounded by artificial islands that have become global icons, such as the Palm, Jumeirah, the Wild Islands, and Blue Waters. They were designed in the 2000s as a showcase of Gulf futurism, using dredged land to create luxury real estate. Beyond this image of luxury is geopolitics. Oil wealth transformed into post-oil soft power, turning Dubai into a global hub of finance, tourism, and technology. This is advertising for a nation that's reinvented itself through engineering. Further east in the Maldives, the images of paradise itself: turquoise seas, water villas, and infinity pools. But beneath the branding lies a harsher truth. The Maldives is the world's lowest lying country, and the risk of sea level rise threatened its very existence. And the government's response is to take futurism literal. In 2022, the Maldives announced a floating city, a 5,000 home lagoon-based development designed by Dutch architects Water Studio, intended to move with the tides. It's a tourist fantasy and a survival strategy rolled into one. It's a way to project stability, innovation, and glamour to a global audience. Similarly, there's climate futurism, islands that must invent tomorrow. Because some islands don't have the luxury of spectacle. For them, futurism is survival. In the Pacific, the small island nation of Tuvalu faces near total submersion in this century. In 2022, its former minister, Simon Kofe, addressed the UN standing knee-deep in seawater, a global warning that was made viral. In the same year, Tuvalu announced an extraordinary plan to digitally replicate its nation in a metaverse, preserving its sovereignty and culture even if the land disappears. This is both deeply tragic and radically modern. In other places, Japan, for example, has built one of the most ambitious artificial islands, Kansai International Airport, opened in 1994. This was constructed offshore to reduce noise and reclaim coastal space, and was hailed as an engineering miracle. But the island has been slowly sinking, up to 0.5 metre per year, forcing constant reinforcement. It's a reminder that even engineered futures have their limits. In the Netherlands Antilles, engineers are experimenting with modular floating infrastructure, using lessons learned from flood-prone Europe and the Pacific to design adaptable urban systems. This is a futuristic strategy just to survive. Some islands are dreaming even bigger. They are looking up, turning their isolation into gateways into the cosmos. From Hawaii's Mauna Kea, 13 telescopes from 11 countries gaze into deep space. It is one of the best astronomical sites on Earth, with high altitude, thin air, and clear skies. It is also sacred ground for native Hawaiians, and protests against the proposed 30-metre telescope show how the future and the past will collide. This is where scientific ambition is meeting cultural survival. In the Atlantic, La Palma Rock de los Muchachos Observatory hosts a cluster of telescopes run by European consortia, built here for the same reason: altitude, clarity, and a distance from pollution. This site represents a quiet kind of geopolitics, a collaborating of soft power and a shared vision, and Europe's cosmic outpost on the edge of Africa. So why do islands dream of the future? It's because they have to. Their isolation forces invention. There are planets' natural laboratories, small enough to experiment and visible enough to inspire. But their dreams aren't all the same. For Singapore, their future was about regaining control. For Iceland, the future is about balance and sustainability. Each one of the islands, Singapore, Iceland, the Marshall Islands, Dubai, Tuvalu, and all the others, tells a story about power and how we can use engineering and technology to shape the future. The future isn't just a place that we reach, it's more something that we can construct. For all of these islands, they are surrounded by uncertainty and built on the edge, but they are able to dream of what can come next. And that's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this look. And if you'd like to give us a like and subscribe for more, I bring out new episodes every Tuesday. Goodbye!